Hey everybody, I'm Marlene Williams, and today we're talking with one of 9 authors who is part of the Holiday Giftaway. 9 fabulous Christian books of many different genres, and Jeanette, I'm just being very Frenchy for you there, Janet, is one of the authors. So we're going to learn a little bit more about her and the book that she's got in the Giftaway and all kinds of interesting authorial things. So Janet, welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, your website, please, and the genre of book that you write.
Okay, so my name is Janet Weiner. I write as Janet Joanou Weiner, and that's the name of my website as well, janetjoanouweiner.com. And I write historical fiction, and I live in the south of France, and where my husband and I run a missionary base and a training base, and we have lived here for off and on in France for almost over 20 years. And right now, for the past 13, 14 years, we've lived in the south of France in a chateau that's over 500 years old. And there's lots of history and stories here, and I'm weaving those into novels.
Oh, that is so interesting. And everyone now is having a serious case of envy. Like, you're living in a castle in France. Oh, yeah. It's a hard knock life. Yeah. So, yeah. So Janet, tell us a little bit about the specific book. And if you have it near you, could you just hold it up for us?
Sure.
You will disappear behind your book, but we'll know that you're there. So
I'm still here.
Yeah.
Here it is. Whoops. Let's see if I can do this right. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
There it is.
It's called The Light Shines Through, and it's the Huguenot Resistance Series, Book 2. And, but it can be read alone. So if you win this book and you don't want to read book 1, it's okay. I wrote it so that it could be read alone. However, if you've read book 1, there's things that weave into book 2. It just makes it a little more interesting and fun, but it can be understood alone. And both books are set in like the end of the 17th century, beginning of the 18th century, when there was a lot of wars of religion in France between the French Protestant Huguenots and the King Louis XIV's authorities who wanted to suppress them. So when we moved here, I started researching just to know more about the chateau and about this town and region. The region I live in is called the Cévennes. It's just rich in this history, and there were stories that were just incredible. So hence the books were born. Well, it took a lot of work to get there.
Yeah. It wasn't like you went like this and all of a sudden there was a book, right? That's wonderful. Who would you say your ideal reader is, or your target reader for this book?
It's someone that enjoys historical fiction, probably for the same reasons I do. It's fun to learn new things, but in the context of a story, it's so much more enjoyable and palatable. And also someone who enjoys stories that have a deeper spiritual message that leaves you encouraged and strengthened in your faith.
So this isn't one of those history books that we were forced to read in school where it's just like a bunch of dates and wars and things like that. This is the story of real people that's happening in the midst of history, and you're living in the place where it happened.
Yeah So it makes it really interesting.
Do you get that vibe when you walk through the towns and when you are in your chateau and just think, this happened here?
I do. Not every day, not every minute, but every once in a while I do. And a lot of the town names of streets and things reflects different aspects of that. Or there's a Huguenot cross that they wore back in the day to let each other know who they were. And many people here still wear it. And so when I see someone wearing it, and usually an older person, and often it's gold, and they're given it like when they're 12 or 13. And it's I'm like, oh my goodness, you're in the same stream. They're no longer called Huguenot. They're called the Reformed Church, or just, they're in some other church, but we have freedom of religion. Yeah. So that's when I'll think, oh my goodness. And I'll look at their faces and I'll think, I wonder who you were related to. I wonder if I know them, because I feel like I know the ones from the fast.
That is so interesting to
Yeah.
me to have that kind of legacy and connection
Mhm.
in the locale. And I
Mhm.
know that there's going to be people that have no idea what a Huguenot is, or
Mhm.
what the history is. And this is your chance to find out. And I
That's
know
right.
that Janet said, oh, you don't have to read the first book, but I'm telling you, you really should, because you just want to immerse yourself in this. But we'll get back to you as an author. Tell me about the gift book that you received that you never forgot.
I have two, and it's fun because they're similar in size. One is called, I have to look at it again. One is called Walking on Water. It's by Madeline L'Engle, and it's I've read it at least two times. I was trying to think today how many times I've read it, but at least two is not exaggerating, and at least partially a third time. And I probably will go back to it again. And I just find her writing beautiful and fascinating and encouraging, and I'm envious when I read it because I want to write like that. And the other one is in about the same size, and it's called Gift from the Sea, and it's by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. And it's interesting because they're both blue books, different colors, but of the same size, given to me at different times by different people, but had a similar impact where it was meant. They're just lovely books with deep, deep thoughts and messages, and I find them both very inspirational.
That's you're the second author that has brought up Madeline L'Engle as their favorite
Oh,
gift book. So
I didn't know. Yeah.
if our viewers or listeners are not familiar with that, we're going to have all of the suggested books and all of the favorite books
Mm.
listed in the comments, so that we'll start a sort of a virtual book club of people that
Yeah,
will just maybe
right.
be discovering some great new books they didn't
Yeah.
know about.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, who taught you to read? What was the first book that you can
Mhm.
remember reading as a child?
My mom taught me to read and she taught me when I was 4 at home. She was
Oh.
a teacher, and she went, and I was the first child, and so she in school, but she had time when she wasn't at school, and she taught me to read, and I have always loved reading, and I don't remember exactly the first book. I'm guessing it was Dr. Seuss or a little golden book. I had a lot of those. But what I do remember is when I was about 7, I started reading the Laura Ingalls Walters books. And oops, you blinked out for a minute, but you're back. I read those over and over and over again, starting in about second grade. And so those are my strong memories.
They're pretty addictive, aren't they? Yes. I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of us read them to our children and read them ourselves.
Yes.
So,
Yes, I did that too.
speaking of great reads, what are you reading right now? What's on your nightstand?
Yeah. I'm reading a really good book right now, which is so fun when you find one you just love. It's called The Secrets of the Lighthouse, and it's by an author I just discovered recently. Her name is Santa Montefiore. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And I just sort of stumbled upon her. Another book was about, I can't remember, it's called The Beekeeper or something, but then this one is called The Secrets of the Lighthouse, and it's excellent. I'm really enjoying it.
Again, this will be in the chat, in the comments. So tell me now, we've talked about the chateau, and we've all had our sighs of envy, which we're totally through with that now. So where do you write within your environs? What's your hidey hole for writing?
Right where I'm sitting right now. I'm at my desk in a relatively small room with wonderful beam ceilings, and there's an old stone sink in the wall because it's thought that this was maybe the kitchen. I'm upstairs we live in one wing of the chateau, and our organization is in the other wings, but it's separated off, so they have to come outside to our door, which is great. I love them, but I don't want them, access to my house
Right.
and life
Yeah.
all the time. And has a big fireplace, and I have 6 fireplaces in my house alone because that was the way it was heated. It's over 500 years old, so I mean it's probably been rebuilt in somewhere in the 1700s, but they had to build fireplaces. So anyway, this room has a lot of charm and character, and it's where my desk is, and there's a window behind the computer and desk that's looking out at my lovely garden. So it's really and I have to have the door shut, and just block even if no one's home, I shut the door. There's just something about feeling like I won't be interrupted.
Yes. It's kind of, this is my space, and I'm protecting it with the door, and you have slightly more dramatic, maybe a moat to protect your space. But The rest of us just shut the door and call it a day. Do you have any little special routines or like things that you drink? You know, have a lot of authors talk about their addiction to coffee or tea.
Yes.
What's in your cup when you're writing?
Mostly water, but I do start with coffee in the morning. But I keep water here as well. Coffee, and then when I've had my quota of coffee, I switch to tea of some sort. And so especially in these colder months, I really like to have something warm. And I have a little snack drawer right here that's got all raisins and goodies in there. So sometimes I don't want to take a break, but I'm hungry, so I'll just nibble those. And I listen to Spotify. I have playlists on there, mostly of instrumental Christian music, of different worship songs or other just beautiful music too. But it has to be instrumental. I can't have words going on when I'm trying to create words.
There's many authors that say that, like, I can listen to some like easy listening or symphonic music, but forget it. If there's lyrics, then you start writing, the lyrics, right?
Yeah. And even sometimes if it's a really familiar worship song, and it'll pull me in a little bit too much. So I listen a lot to a guy named Dan Musselman, and he's on YouTube and on Spotify. And I just have the free Spotify, but he does a lot of beautiful instrumentals that are just right. They're like not annoying, they're not boring, they're enough interest, but they kind of create an atmosphere. Because if it's just quiet, that's a little too quiet for me.
Because then you're kind of listening for something. Yeah. That's perfect. Sort of,
and I think I'm almost trained myself like Pavlov's dog right now, because I turned it on and I kind of get in. It's sort of like okay, now we're writing mode.
Yes, now we're writing. We're shutting the door. We're turning on the music. It's writing time.
That's right.
So one of the things that we've asked all of the authors, and I can't wait to hear your answer on this, is that all of the Gift Away books convey a spiritual truth of one kind or another. What truth does your book convey or center about?
So as I mentioned, it's set in a time of persecution of the Huguenots, and the book that is in the giveaway is during a time when it's illegal to be a Protestant. So they had to pretend to be Catholic or flee the country or go to jail or die. So the ones that stayed here pretend to be Catholic, but continued to read their Bibles and train their children in biblical truth at night after they came home from the school run by the priests. And I also make it very clear in my book, I'm not anti-Catholic. It's just set in a time of when that's the setting. It's not my personal sentiments at all.
Right. That's just the reality of the situation.
Yes. So, and you think about it, before the Reformation, there was not two streams of Christianity in the West, in Western Europe. And so each thought the other was heretical. So, you can understand the context, even if it's foreign to us. And anyway, so it's about a woman whose journey is she's a believer, but she struggles with fear because she doesn't really know the love of God in a personal way. And then her life just gets worse and worse because she's living in this really persecuted time. And a lot of things happen that are based on things that did happen at that time. And a war breaks out during that time between the Huguenot and the king's authorities. And so it's her journey to trust God, that he loves her, and to experience his love, and how that overcomes fear. So the short answer is that perfect love casts out fear.
That's a beauty. And I think nowadays, even if we have so-called freedom of religion, there's a lot of fear out there right now. So what a wonderful message for those of us who need a little booster shot of that understanding of that truth from time to time. Well, Janet, thank you so much for joining us from France, folks. And just want to encourage you again, please enter the holiday gift away. The link to enter is right below in the chat. One happy grand prize winner will receive 9 autographed paperbacks, something for everyone in all different genres: YA, fantasy, romance, historical fiction, devotional, so much more. And then 9 individual winners will win 1 ebook. So you can enter by clicking on the link below, and you can learn more about ordering Janet's book at her website. And we'll also link that down below. So we are so excited. Even if you don't win it, you're going to want to read it. So be sure and check out this book. And thank you again Merci beaucoup for
Oh.
joining us from France. And why don't you tell us Merry Christmas in French? I'm sure people would love to hear that.
Okay. Joyeux Noël.
Okay.
Joyeux Noël. Joyous Noël.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thanks again, everybody, and Merry
too.
Christmas from this side of the pond.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.